are so privileged to have one of our favorite founders joining us today, Olga from Olga's Organics. I tell everyone who comes into the shop about your amazing work that you're doing because you are the first, possibly only now, but maybe I'm not, we'll ask you, USDA certified cosmetics company in the world. You're super open, which is not easy, which I'm so excited to share during this time together about your process because it just blew my mind when I learned what you do, the lengths you go to for that. But I've always and I share this with people whenever I can, how similar our stories were about this becoming founders because of our own life, our own health, and not having, basically, we created what we were looking for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for you to be here today. I know how valuable your time is and how busy you are. You're also use your time for the organic association, which I don't know how you're doing that, in addition to creating products and running your business, which you do all on your own. But you have grown. I know that you're going to be discovered soon by in Vogue magazine. Maybe you already are, but we're just so grateful for you to come here. And would you be willing to share that really incredible story of how you got here? And
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having me, Laura. You
yes.
guys are genuinely my favorite people. Like your energy and everything you guys do for yourself and your community is incredible. So thank you for what you have
Yes.
been able to do. And um, the journey is beautiful because it's like we're always unfolding, we're always learning, and so my journey began with um, kind of a sad story in my home country when my biological father passed away in a car accident and I was with him.
I'm
So it was a very
sorry.
kind of sad situation. It's part of my story, and he was only 34 years old at the time, so just wild to even think about that.
And
And so
how old were you?
my mom and my dad, they had me like when they were like 19. Yeah, so
Yes.
I was like 15 or something like
Okay.
that. So I
Okay.
was, a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom and dad, they were like the high school sweethearts. They dated from
Oh.
16 to, 18, and then I popped into their world. But so the car accident was sad, and my mom just kind of wanted a fresh new start, and then we ended up applying for a green card and getting that, and next thing you know, we're in the United States. She just wanted a fresh new chapter, and that's what she got. And I'm so grateful that we took that leap of faith, so it's kind of a theme in my whole life, taking leaps of faith, it almost seems like. But I can share with you about my journey and in coming to United States, and how food was different in my home country versus here. And I guess I didn't even mention, but I was originally from Moldova, a little country in
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Europe by Romania and Ukraine. So I learned a tremendous amount through this journey to being immersed in a completely new culture and new language and new everything, new foods and new traditions. So it was definitely fascinating, to say the least. And then, as far as Olga's Organics is concerned, so I don't divert too much, like I shared with you, in our previous podcast session, you know, the it was literally a one single conversation that kind of gave me the light bulb moment, where I was talking with my husband about 10 years ago now. It's crazy to think, a decade now. But we were talking about aluminum, which is a active ingredient in absolutely all conventional deodorant. Okay, and that particular research study was talking how aluminum was found in the tissue of breast cancer patients. And when I was talking with him, and at the time, Brian, my husband, he was actually in radiation therapy. So he was treating cancer patients with radiation. So he was very familiar with that particular world. And he was witnessing how many more younger and many more people are basically getting cancer in the United States. And if you don't already know this, but United States has the highest cancer rates both for females and males in the world.
Oh my
So
gosh.
something is definitely going on. And after that conversation, long story short, I started looking at all of the ingredients that are in my body care and skincare, because I just realized that, hey, you know what? That can potentially affect me in a negative way in my health. So I ended up, reading all those ingredients, and between all the X's and Z's and Y's, I could not pronounce any of them. I knew right there and then that that was not something I should put on my skin. And I took the very drastic approach of like getting rid of everything. And I don't recommend that to my customers. It's a gradual approach is probably more feasible for folks, but ultimately, I got rid of everything, and I wanted to find an alternative, like a truly plant-based, organic certified alternative, and couldn't find it anywhere. So then I created a face powder, which is the first and only organic certified makeup in the United States. Okay, and I shared it with friends and family, and everybody was like, "Olga, you gotta do something about it. This is so cool." And at the time, I was going to grad school at Drake University here in Des Moines, and I was like, I'm not sure, if I can do that. But I took an entrepreneurship class at Drake, and for that class, the hypothetical company was Olga's Organics. So it kind of, after taking that class and doing the balance sheets and kind of projections and whatnot, we kind of, I was kind of inspired to potentially start the business. And then we sold our house in Iowa, moved to Colorado, and with the proceeds from the sale of our house, we used that money to start a company.
And
Sorry, very long answer.
no, but the two of you, you and your spouse, are using your own money to create a completely unique product for people like me and others who really have to be careful of everything that goes. You taught me what goes on our skin is 60 to 70% right into the bloodstream. And the way I first found you was through an article with chemically sensitive people who talked about a cosmetics company that you could actually eat because all of the ingredients, except you said the mica would give people a stomach ache.
So I want to clarify something as far as the makeup is concerned, okay?
Yes.
So face powder is organic certified, and you see that seal, that USDA seal. And the reason being for that is because 95% of that formula, and I believe it's actually even a little bit more, but it needs to be at least 95% or above, that's plant-based ingredients. So when the United States Department of Agriculture created a national organic program, they didn't think about, catering that to like the cosmetics world,
Right.
Actually meant for food purposes,
Yes.
So technically the product has to be food plant items, okay? So the face powder meets all of those criteria because it's got cinnamon and cacao and nutmeg and all these beautiful plant ingredients. So the rest of the makeup, like the eyeshadow and the highlighter and the lip tint I'm wearing today and all of the rest, those have an organic foundation. So they have organic ingredients in them. However, because
Mhm.
mica is not a plant that grows
Mhm.
from seed to plant, I
Mhm.
can't certify those organic. So,
Mhm.
so ultimately, it's still the best of the best, but because
Yes.
of the little mica mineral, which I find to be the safest alternative and the safest option, I will admit I played around with like things like beet powder and things of that nature, and they just didn't cut muster. They
Yeah.
didn't perform well enough for, because I wanted to create something in addition to the face powder that I could use. Like just something to enhance my natural beauty, not overshadow it. So, yeah.
Right. And so I really was interested, and I think these questions are combined a little bit or they connect, but the importance, because, well, first, the USDA certified process is extremely difficult for
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you saying even if you get one little paper off or something and lose that for some reason, you wouldn't ever be able to get it back again. So it's like a stressful, kind of a
Yeah.
high intense process.
Yeah, I can share more about that for sure.
Yes, but so, and then the other thing is just personally, I get really discouraged. I don't know if frustrated, but it's very difficult to navigate cosmetics because some say toxin free and natural, and so the greenwashing to me happens the most in cosmetics. I don't know if you have found that as well. So the question is kind of a combination of those two. Like, is that the reason why USD certified, it's like a beacon for us to find you as a differentiator in this hard to navigate world, or what's the reason that you go to all these links to be
So,
USDA certified?
yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question. So, the USDA organic certification to me was important simply because of how those plants are treated compared to conventional farming practices. So, let's just, for example, say we're looking at a shea butter tree that's typically grown in Ghana, Africa, and one that's grown with conventional practices where they potentially can use synthetic pesticides and things of that nature. To deal with pests and weeds and things of that nature versus the organic practices that do not allow any of that. So, and for me that was important because ultimately conventional plants have traces of pesticides on them, which have been shown to be cancer causing.
Mm-hmm.
So the pinnacle for me was, well, the organic certification kind of is important because there are no traces of pesticides on organic plants. If there are any, it's because of rain or other things. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like something that the farmer added to the plant. So I knew that the organic certification is important, and I wanted to build customer trust right from the get go. That's why I applied for the certification, and that's why I continue to be certified. Because um, what I don't appreciate of what other companies are doing out there is they say, well, we have organic ingredients and this and that. And like you mentioned, the greenwashing aspect of it, they'll add a couple of good, maybe organic ingredients in a formula. But then when you look at the entire list, there's 28 other ingredients that
Right.
are those synthetic lab made ingredients. And ultimately for those companies, they can reproduce and create these synthetic ingredients so easily, and it costs them a fraction on the dollar to do so. And because of that, they can have these giant margins on their products and therefore profits. So for them, the incentive to become certified, it's almost impossible because it would quadruple, maybe even more, their costs, where they wouldn't be as successful in revenue from their
Right.
stream. And for me, it was more about, you know what? I don't want to cut any corners. I want to do the right thing. So the face powder was is organic certified per the National Organic Program. That's the golden standard as far as I'm concerned, but it's difficult to certify every other type of makeup, like the ones that have colors outside of the cacao powder color,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the minerals have come in for me. And that's kind of the what I thought the best option could be. But as far as like my skincare and my body care and my perfume, that's all 100% organic plants,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, nothing synthetic or artificial. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I just love being able to offer that to my customers because I know that they can trust their skin and life with my products. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that every single time they purchase one of my products, they're not slavering their body with something that could potentially be, an endocrine disruptor, a cancer causing ingredient, all the plethora of things out there that are truly damaging our health, every single day. Even though it's a small percentage that's allowable, it adds up over time. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. Every
Mm-hmm.
single day, it adds up over time. So,
So then you have this wonderful perspective of two different countries and the way that people approach things. And I've just personally had this theory because I've had to look outside of the US for myself, for my own life, in order to gather the necessary belongings that I've had. So I just have this personal theory, like somewhere along the line, uh, Europe had the insight, the knowledge, the wisdom not to, I guess, poison? Or, I mean, I don't think the US intentionally is doing that, but it really is turning out now when you look back to be a sort of poison in our food system, our everyday products, because it is having these negative health effects. Have do you like what's your viewpoint of being in both places? Is that correct? That because I know like in Europe, there's many chemicals, food additives, cosmetic additives that are illegal and always have been. So, I don't, what is your view
yeah.
on that?
Thank you for that question. That's such a great question. Yes, European Union, they definitely have things buttoned up quite a bit better, and they are looking out for the consumer interest rather than for other interest groups.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you mentioned, European Union has banned over 1,000 different ingredients in their personal care items. The Food and Drug Administration has banned 10. So
Mm-hmm.
when you just look at that simple statistic there, you can tell right away whose interests are being looked at
Mm-hmm.
in what country. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, their approach is if it hasn't been tested, we're not gonna push it on our people. Where here, it's more like, oh, if it hasn't shown negative things, then we're not gonna not allow it. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's more of a well encompassing, holistic approach on their part versus here in the United States where it basically falls on the consumer to educate themselves, to
Yes.
learn about all these things, which can be so overwhelming. And that's where you and I come in, where we can help people, just give them a little guidance and point them in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't realize, you don't know these things, and you shouldn't have to know everything like that, about your
Mm-hmm.
food and everything around you. So it's overwhelming to say the least. But our farming industry is kind of showing some signs of we, showing some signs of denigration, and then our food system is definitely showing signs of where people are becoming more obese. And personal experience here I'll share with you. So when I moved from Moldova with my mom to United States, I was 115 pound, young girl. Okay, so fairly athletic and thin, and when I came to United States, China buffet and things of that nature, where the portion sizes were so much bigger than what I was used to, and like all the candy and sweets and everything in abundance. And don't get me wrong, that's awesome, that's cool, it's what a privilege it is to have all this food available to you to eat at any time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a beautiful balance, because you have to analyze that, and I'll talk about it more. But within my first year of being in the United States, I gained 35 pounds. So I went from 115 to 145. Maybe that's 30 pounds. Pardon my math. But regardless, a big chunk of weight. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember just feeling kind of, just feeling a little disappointed in myself that I would let that happen, but
Mm-hmm.
also disappointed in my newfound food habits,
Mm-hmm.
and also potentially in the quality of food that I was eating as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the whole relearning process had to begin, and I had to reflect on, well, what did I do differently back in my home country versus what am I doing differently here? And the odds are stacked against you, in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, in that sense, because, you know, there's these foods that are literally designed so you can crave them, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no way that you are not like mentally you don't even know what you're doing fully,
I
you're just
know.
eating, and you're just, next thing you know, all this food is gone and you're still craving it. It's just fascinating, because um it's sad, really, because especially, when in families where, for example, parents might have had these types of habits growing up, then they're kind of sharing those habits with their children, and it kind of just snowballs out of proportion, where more and more people have those habits because they don't know anything better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel like we as a nation find ourselves in, where, I want to say 60% of Americans are obese. Um, which is just devastating. And and the other thing that happened to me was giving birth to my boys. I have two young boys, and my second boy, Harvey, I think I gained like 45 pounds during the pregnancy, and I, didn't lose the weight as fast as I did after my first pregnancy, and I didn't breastfeed him quite as long because I ended up losing my milk when the pandemic happened. It was all the stress of the world. And so my goal was to breastfeed him for a year, but I only breastfeed him for 8 months. So I still look back at that and I feel bad. But ultimately, and then some of that weight just stayed on me, like around my belly and things of that nature. And even though I wasn't super obese in my mind, I went to the gym and I took a body fat percentage scan, and my body fat at that time was 34.5%, which is considered obese. And I could not believe
Mm-hmm.
that, because I didn't feel super negative about my body image or anything like that. I knew I was carrying extra weight from the
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy, but it's like, if I was obese at that time and I was just carrying maybe like 15, 20 pounds extra, like, it's fascinating, because then everybody else must be too,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's been a interesting journey for me too. So for the last 2.5 years, I have been dedicated into exercising regularly, almost every single day if I can. And I've been able to reduce my body fat percentage from 34.5% to like 19.8. So I'm like an athlete level body fat, but it takes time and effort, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's part of that educational process. Everything matters. Your daily habits matter, because daily habits have compounding effects. And you are in charge of your own destiny. If you don't like something about what is happening in your life, you can do something about it. No one else can. You can. And you should take charge, and you should take accountability and ownership, and give yourself that power. Put that power back into your hands and say, hey, I can do better than this. I can eat better. I can exercise. I can take better care of myself and my mental health and my body. And it starts with you ultimately. You can point fingers and everybody and everything else, but it's up to you, and it's up to you to educate yourself.
And another benefit that was so surprising to me is it's like putting, coins in your bank, and then all of a sudden you're, rich with all of these savings. That's the same way with health. Like every time I put something towards my best eating or my best health environment, it's so rewarding and fulfilling, because I'm taking such good care of myself, and it just feels so good to be doing that.